Hi, I'm Johnny Ortega, the author of The Ordinary Bruja. Here I am giving you the audiobook teaser for Chapter 4. Enjoy.
Chapter 4. It was nearly 10 when Marisol heard the tires of Kia's car crunch against her icy driveway. She grabbed her jacket, opened the door, and waited for Kia to come up the steps. The porch light flickered, casting long shadows on the weather-worn steps. From where she stood, Marisol eyed the Virginia creeper clinging to the banister. It was leafless now, but still wrapped tight around the house, refusing to let go, old, stubborn, unmoved by winter's silence. The paint on the doorframe had chipped away in slow, persistent patches. The mailbox tilted to one side, her family's last name barely hanging on in fading letters. It wasn't one of those cute historic houses in Willowshade, with matching shutters and manicured hedges. Her home didn't photograph well. Then again, it didn't try to. But standing here now, with the cold air curling around her ankles and memory tugging at her ribs, she felt it. Her mother's presence still lived inside the walls. The corner still held warmth. The house hadn't forgotten her. Marisol leaned back against the front door, suddenly struck by the stillness inside the four-bedroom house. It had once been full of life, with Mama Belén humming in the kitchen, Mommy and her dad talking over each other in the living room, the TV blaring just as loudly, Kia's laughter spilling into every corner. Her grandfather had died in a car accident years before Mama Belén passed of natural causes, and something in her grandmother dimmed after her husband's death. The loud, spirited woman who used to dance while stirring her café stopped dancing altogether. When she passed, she did so quietly, the kind of quiet that felt like a surrender. Marisol liked to believe she was just happy to be with Grandpa again. Now, in her family's absence, the house felt too big and hollow, felt more like a haunted castle than a home. Kia stepped out of the car and walked toward her with a familiar smile. Hey, Kia said warmly. How you? Marisol replied before opening the door to let Kia inside. When Kia entered, she pulled Marisol into a hug, her perfume wrapping around them both, warm, grounding, safe. The strap of Kia's bag slipped from her shoulder and brushed against Marisol's side. It was the same bag that had stayed here for the first weeks after her mother's death, when Kia slept over every night, helping Marisol through grief she didn't know how to survive alone. She noticed Kia's eyes scan the space immediately. The neatly stacked dishes, the folded throw blankets on the couch, and caught the slight lift of her brows and the gentle curve of her smile. Kia didn't say anything immediately, but Marisol saw the quiet approval in her friend's expression. I've been trying to keep the place up, Marisol admitted sheepishly, shrugging as if it wasn't a big deal. Kia grinned, setting her bag down by the stairs and moving toward the bathroom to wash her hands. I see that. And you even clean your hair out of the shower drain. Marisol rolled her eyes, a small laugh escaping. Don't push it. Kia chuckled softly. Okay. But I'm proud of you, Mari. You didn't have to push me away. You could have let me help. Marisol's smile faltered. Guilt crept back into her chest. You practically live here, Kia. You're always welcome. I just thought maybe you wanted your own space, some privacy. Plus, I'm grown. Marisol didn't know exactly where her complex and shame came from. Maybe it started with her pre-Kia friendships, the ones that called her high maintenance or needy, before slowly drifting away until they ghosted her altogether. Since then, she carried a quiet guilt whenever she leaned on someone too much, always afraid her needs will make people leave. Kia had never given her a single reason to think that, but the fear clung to her anyway, stubborn and familiar. Kia shook her head, her eyes warm but firm. What space? Before Marisol could reply, Kia pulled her into a bear hug, so tight Marisol thought she'd run out of air. When Kia finally let go, her expression softened. I stayed because I wanted to. I left because I thought you needed it. But the truth is, I miss being here too. Marisol swallowed thickly, emotions clogging her throat. She missed Kia. She missed the way her presence made everything feel bearable. It had been a little over a year since Mommy died, but the house still smelled like her, still felt like her. Some days that was a comfort. Other days it made Marisol want to scream. I miss you being here too, she finally admitted. But you deserve your privacy too, and you deserve a friend that don't drag you down. Kia reached out and nudged Marisol's shoulder, playful at first. Privacy is so overrated, and I deserve you. Marisol's breath caught in her throat at the contact, the warmth lingering longer than it should. Besides, Kia added quickly as if to smooth over the moment, it feels like home here. Kia moved into the kitchen with practiced ease, heading straight to the pantry for popcorn kernels. The kitchen, spacious but worn from years of cooking and laughter, still carried faint aromas of coffee, spices, and something comforting Marisol could never quite put a finger on. Maybe it was just memories. Kia turned on the stove and started melting the butter. Soon the scent of freshly popping kernels filled the air, warm and buttery, instantly making the house feel alive again. Kia glanced at the 4 chairs surrounding the kitchen island. Remember when your mom sat us both right there? Marisol furrowed her brows, trying to recall. Come on, freshman year? The rumble? Marisol covered her face with her hand, laughter bubbling up uncontrollably as the memory rushed back. Oh my God, yes. You know your mom was serious if she came out with her doobie still wrapped and no makeup on, Kia said, chuckling. It was supposed to be a fun dare. Marisol laughed, shaking her head. But you almost threw hands with Delgada. Who does that? She started it, Mary, and I was gonna finish it until your mom came out preaching about the dangers of the hill, shaming everyone for being there. What did she call them? Feral cats? She was definitely trying to scare them off your property. Yeah, everyone uses the hill like it's public property. Marisol sighed. But then talk crap about it in your family, Kia said, her voice softening with sympathy. Now you know that's high-level petty behavior. Marisol nodded, her laughter fading into a quiet reflection. I thought your mom would kick me out. I thought she would say I couldn't come back. Marisol shook her head gently, a wistful smile tugging at her lips. Mommy loved you, Kia. She used to call you her hija postiza. Her voice lowered as she slipped into her mother's cadence. Go get my other daughter, Mari. Dinner's ready. The words came fuller, lilting, just like her mother's, like the voice that used to call them to the table with love wrapped in every word. She laughed softly, almost to herself. And I'd say, Mommy, Kia doesn't even live here. Marisol shifted her voice once again, this time into something more playful and teasing. Well, maybe she should. Her inflection curled into her mother's favorite kind of sass, the kind laced with affection and certainty. Marisol paused, the warmth of nostalgia softening her features. For a moment, she just held the memory of her mother's familiar voice, full of love. Then her smile softened, giving away to the memory she'd truly been circling all along. Unlike the dare turn almost rumble, this moment wasn't filled with laughter. It was filled with something deeper, wisdom, the kind she hadn't understood back then. Marisol glanced toward the kitchen doorway. For a moment, she could almost see her. Her mother standing there, equal parts love and lecture written into the lines of her face. With the weight of the memory returning, her voice lowered. She looked right at you and said, Kia, tienes un corazón de oro. You protect the ones you love so fiercely. Kia nodded with a faint smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. Then Marisol's voice dipped, imitating the precise seriousness her mother reserved for truths she wanted etched into memory. Then she turned to me. all serious, and said, "But you, Mari, you need to learn that one day, when I'm not here, and maybe Kia isn't either, you'll have to fight your own battles. Y entonces, ¿qué tú vas a hacer?" She rolled her eyes, but there was no bite behind it, just ache. Marisol shook her head fondly, her eyes glassy with emotions. She was always dropping those. Y cuando yo me muera, bombs casually. Like, okay, mommy, thanks for the existential dread. Marisol's throat tightened at the realness of it. Kia gave her a gentle, understanding smile, but stayed quiet. Mommy had a knack for dramatic lessons, always reminding Marisol of a future without her, a future Marisol had never wanted to imagine. Yet here she was, living that very future. Maybe her mom had been right all along, preparing her for this moment, knowing someday she'd have no choice but to stand on her own. Kia's eyes glistened as she reached across the island, squeezing Marisol's hand, anchoring her with muted, steady reassurance. It's okay. No one knew. There was no way of knowing. But I'm here, and I've basically lived here more than I ever lived in that other house. So yeah, your mom was right. You're stuck with me, and I'm not going anywhere. Marisol let out a soft laugh. She nodded, and a tender silence settled between them. The kitchen felt thick with memory, like every surface had soaked in her mother's warmth and refused to let it fade. Marisol parted her lips, wanting to say what she'd never put into words, that she felt safe with Kia, that it meant everything when she stayed. But the fear pressed just as strong. If she even acknowledged the feelings growing inside her, she might ruin everything between them. So no words came. Instead, she squeezed Kia's hand and met her gaze, praying her eyes didn't betray her. I've always loved it here, Kia said softly, especially when your mom told her stories. Marisol smiled, though something fluttered in her chest, small, insistent, a feeling she couldn't name. At first, it felt like nostalgia, the comfort of every late night they'd ever shared. But the longer she held Kia's gaze, the more it shifted, warmth curling into want, safety tipping into something sharper. The way Kia's eyes softened in the dim kitchen light made Marisol ache to lean closer, to ask the question she couldn't form. Don't make it weird, she warned herself, shifting slightly. She's just your best friend, that's all. But still, her pulse betrayed her. To get her mind out of thinking impossible things, Marisol veered the conversation in another direction. Mommy and her stories. I think she watched Practical Magic way too much. She was always lighting candles, whispering secrets to the air. Hi, Mommy. I think she started believing it. So you don't believe it? Kia asked. Marisol blinked. The question caught her off guard. Kia had always respected her mom deeply, but she also had clear boundaries when it came to anything witchy. Fiction was fine. Practical magic, sure. But real rituals and spiritual practices? No. Kia kept her distance. Marisol had always understood that, but maybe this wasn't about belief. Maybe Kia was just missing her too. Maybe all that magic stuff? Maybe it was just Mommy's way of keeping us connected. Marisol murmured. Kia nodded. It always made things feel whimsical. And I've always appreciated that. Marisol's breath snagged in her throat as she met Kia's gaze, warmth settling deep between them. They carried their bowls of popcorn into the living room and sank onto the old couch, its cushions worn smooth by years of family gatherings. So, Marisol said, grabbing the remote, what are we watching? Practical Magic? Kia said without hesitation, flashing a teasing grin. Marisol and Kia burst into laughter, so loud, so long, it took them several minutes to even start the movie. They needed that laugh. the heaviness of their shared memories lifted, if only a little. Marisol leaned back, letting Kia's comforting presence soothe away the lingering shadows, at least for tonight. As the familiar scenes unfolded on the screen, a rare sense of peace settled over her, grounding her in the warmth of friendship and memory. But as the movie played on, a quiet unease slowly crept back into her chest. The gentle laughter and easy conversation couldn't erase the whispers from earlier, or the feeling that something was shifting, pulling her toward a truth she'd always dismissed. "Hey, Kia," Marisol said softly, almost hesitant to break the moment. "Yeah?" Kia glanced over. When Marisol paused, the words catching on her tongue. It was a dumb question. She knew that. But ever since Kia had asked, it had lodged in her throat like a stone she couldn't swallow. She didn't even know what kind of answer she was looking for. If Kia said yes, did that mean it was okay for Marisol to believe it too? If she said no, then what? Did she just go back to pretending it was all porquerías? She turned and looked at Kia, voice quieter now. "You asked if I believed the things Mommy believed, but do you?" Kia let out a breath and shook her head firm, but not unkind. "No. Oh no, Maddie. You know I don't mess with that stuff." Her voice softened, eyes dipping briefly. "And I don't think I ever will." She hesitated, then added with quiet honesty. "Not because of you, just because of how I was raised. What my parents did to me wasn't right. And I don't believe God hates me for being who I am, but I do believe in Him." Did that mean anything outside her beliefs was outside of God and evil? The thought left a bitter taste in Marisol's mouth. She wasn't evil, and neither were her mother or grandmother. Kia's voice fell even softer, almost a whisper. "But if anyone could have made me believe, it would have been your mom." Marisol swallowed hard and turned back to the screen. Her thoughts drifted, carried by whisper warnings, shadow hills, and secrets that seemed to be buried deep in her blood.
If you like what you hear, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with somebody who you know would love to read about Marisol Espinal and the Ordinary Bruja. But also, the Ordinary Bruja is up for pre-orders right now and will be out on November 1st. So tap, 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 tap into that thing with your finger. Like click it. Yeah, do that. Okay.